Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to another exciting Wednesday night. We're ripping things off cards. It is very exciting stuff. We've got bits and pieces going on everywhere. We're having a good old time. The weather's warming up. Lockdown may be ending pretty soon. It's all very excitable. And of course, once the lockdown ends, with a bit of luck, good old Aaron's store finally gets to open. And you get to look at all those action figures that were on those shelves that fell off during the earthquake and have a bit of a laugh thinking, who got the job of putting all those back on the shelves? Well, I'll tell you who didn't get that job. That was me. So, Mr. Aaron, how you going tonight, old son?
Yeah, I'm going well. Good to see you during the week. A bit of a flying visit in the shop.
Yeah, so I popped my nose in. I did keep my social distancing and all the rest of it, and I had a bit of a laugh at what I saw. And I go, well, it was very exciting. It was like returning back to an old friend's home, just sitting there chewing the fat, gas bagging about various exciting things. It's very cool. What do you reckon?
I know you wanted to social distance. My brain's out. I could tell.
Yeah, well, exactly right. And I'll tell you what, it was kind of weird because I haven't been there for like 3 months. I felt like when I do eventually get to go back, I'll like been on long service leave or something. But anyway, the important thing is the store is still there. Mr. Aaron, how are you coping otherwise? You all right?
I'm going good. So this week I'm feeling a bit mellow. I haven't been sleeping much. I've been binging too much TV. So binged the Squid Games, binged all the episodes of Why the Last Man, binged Midnight Mass, and then binged the Foundation. So yeah, that was one a day this week.
Very good. So
I think there's only four episodes out, but it was worth binging.
Very good. I know that War of the Worlds has sort of finished its second season, I believe, and William, who's probably watching us, is getting William's got no need to nick off now at 9:30 because I think it's finished. So, William, and he's watching. So, yeah, good on you, William. Mate, well done. I'm expecting you to stay here for the 2 hours at least that we're going to be on the show, which is very cool
any
stuff.
Discount for earthquake damage stock. That's actually custom battle damaged. We put the price up on that stuff.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, well, don't forget, kids, when the store does eventually reopen, all the prices will have gone up because, 3 and 4 months have passed and all the prices have appreciated. Those collectibles are worth a bit more now than they were back in like August. So you keep that in mind, which is good stuff. Now, I've got to move on. Hang on. Excuse me. So this is actually quite funny, actually. So this only happened 2 hours ago, right? My other half injured her finger, right? And she needed to put a Band-Aid on her finger. And she's looking at the Band-Aid cupboard, and I said, mate, you got to pull out a Star Wars Band-Aid, right? Which is what she did. She went, got herself a Star Wars Band-Aid, put it around her thumb. It's the dark side Band-Aid, so as you can clearly tell, it's a damn good one to have. And now, I've got to say, kids and fans, if you're watching this episode and you hear in the background in my microphone, all you can hear is she's out there playing lightsabers with a thumb. Come to the dark side.
So does that mean if she does any gardening, she just kills everything she touches because green thumbs are good and black thumbs are bad?
Yeah. Imagine if you're a bit of a thumb sucker, I say, come to the dark side. I shall suck you. No. Anyway, let's move on before I get myself into massive trouble. So there you go. Very good. All right, so we are going to kick things off. As always, it is a gigantic episode planned for this evening. It's absolutely awesome. There's one person I think I have to say hello to. Yes. So we've got Gavin here. We're not talking about sex files, but the fact is Gavin lives in Sydney. So he's actually out of lockdown. He can actually leave his house, go out and partay with normal people, but instead he's stuck home with us. What's the deal with that, Mr. Gavin? Please explain.
Hey, Gavin, how was Kmart?
Yeah, exactly right. Very cool. And look at William. He even stuck around. Yes, so for 2 hours and 20 minutes last week. 2 hours and 20 minutes of us. Oh my God, how painful is that? But anyway, we need to move on. Oh, here we go. That's Newcastle, actually. It's like people who live in Geelong. I don't live in Melbourne. I live in bloody Geelong. So whatever, you're free. We're not. But the fact that you've joined us is absolutely spantabuli. Now we're going to move on. So otherwise, we'll never get to the end of this damn show. So, as always, we like to kick things off with a bit of the old treasure in the suburbs, where we look at people's collections and who's got what, where, and all the rest of it. And some people have been submitting photographs to the show for that. So, last week we had MPS, and the week before that we had Gavin, who's watching right now with his Yoda stuff. And tonight we got someone a little bit different. It is Mr. Mark Dunn. From, I believe Mark actually lives in Victoria, so hopefully I got that one right. And he sent through some pics to Aaron. So, Aaron, I'll get you to talk through some of this because it's actually, some of it is even Doctor Who related, except for these ones.
Yep, they're from a Doctor Who episode that's been missing from the archives. That's when the Dukes of Hazzard teamed up with Back to the Future. No, Mark collects a lot of different things, but he is a big Doctor Who fan, and he has a man cave that makes me envious. But these are some of the cars that he submitted, and he's got some number plates that go along with his collectibles as well. So you've got the Hazzard County. Now, I've seen the Out of Time one in collectibles before. I hadn't seen anyone that had the Dukes of Hazzard one before, so that's pretty cool. I'm sure I haven't looked for it either, but that's a bit of a unique item.
Now, hang on, I'm going to just cut you off. So when people look at that number plate and they go, "Oh, dude, you've got the Dukes of Hazzard, number plate," instead of people going, no, he just goes, ba, 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 ba. I forgot how the tune goes. I'm trying to be clever, and I've just had a mental blank. So, yes, anyway.
I have been told I could pull off a cosplay of Boss Hogg pretty easily with a white suit. So I'm always interested.
Sorry, you were saying that like Mark is big into Doctor Who. I can imagine the Doctor, whichever Doctor you want, pick your favourite one, going, yeah, a bit of a Roscoe P. Coltrane action. Anyway, let's move on, shall we?
That's my money. So I wasn't actually sure what this one was. Mark's here. What was that? What was this suit from?
Very good. While he's thinking about writing an answer to that,
go to the next one, because this is more of my expertise. That's a very familiar Cyberman head. Do you recognise that one, Dags?
Oh, Jesus Christ! I'm not that much of a heathen. I was waiting for you to say I recognise that head, and I thought it was talking about the lady in the background. It
was in our shop while you were working there, so I thought you might have recognised it. That was all. But that's a prop replica of the 1970s Revenge of the Cybermen Cyber Leader. You can tell that because of his black ear bumpers and tubing.
So here's a question from Gavin. If Aaron is Boss Hogg, am I the dipstick? Oh, cop that, he says. Oh, cheese Louise. It's Mr. Dipstick to you. Thank you very much. So, yes.
And this is another incredibly rare piece. This is the Prime Computers Doctor Who Meets His Match ad. Now, I don't know if anyone would remember it. Prime Computers was a pretty big computing company that was advertised with Doctor Who in Australia. And that was quite a big advertising campaign. And the merchandise to do with the advertising campaign is absolutely impossible to get and is expensive here, but goes for a fortune overseas because a lot of international collectors are after it.
All right. I've got a question about this. Actually, I agree with this comment that just come up. Joe says it looks like a high-tech watering can. You know what it looks like to me? It looks like the kind of containers that babies drink out of. You know, they hold it with both hands and they have a bit of a slurp. So I tell you what now, because this is one-to-one scale Cyberman head, how big are those effing babies, mate?
Well, there you go. There's a product that hasn't been done that should be done. Cybermen sipper cups. That'd be pretty cool, actually. I'd have bought one. Absolutely.
Love it. And you're right, Mr. Vile. It does look like it's made from a fuel container. So, yeah, take that down to your local petrol station when you're looking for a bit of unleaded. So there you go.
And this is a replica. It's not an original of a Sea Devil head from a 1970s episode. So that's one of those things you'd like to wake up to every morning for sure. And the tunic we were looking up earlier was an original prop from the Sunmakers. So sorry, I didn't recognise that one.
I like it. It's not the kind of thing you want to wake up to. As the old joke goes, and I've said this once before, sometimes I wake up grumpy, other days I let her sleep in.
And this is a replica of a full Cyberman costume from Silver Nemesis. And these ones are particularly hard to get because of the silver chrome on the head and the chest unit. It makes them very hard to make. So they're kind of only made to order. I think there's only about... When they came out, only about 6 of them were sold. There's probably about 10 in the world. So that's quite a rare item there.
Yeah. Bloody figures. As if like this is like a regular in the show, is it saying goddamn Daleks, mate?
You must be loving it. The one week I don't talk about Doctor Who, someone sends a whole lot of Doctor Who stuff in. So there you go. These are Dapol figures. They're the sort of action figures that were around from the late 80s and 90s that sort of have been superseded now. They're pretty cool to have, and there's some rare items there. You can see the Blue Dalek was only released in Australia because it was an exclusive to a chain in England, so it was never released on a card anywhere but here. And then there's Davros and Ace, which are 2 cool figures for anyone who's Doctor Who fans and know what they're looking at. And they're on the rainbow card, which is the nicest card, I think.
All right, let it go. All I wanted you to say is, yeah, Mark's got some really, really nice Daleks. Isn't that a great collector? And you go on this massive spiel about where they come from and what they look like and who released them. Oh, dude, you're killing me.
Mark has a really nice collection.
Yeah. Oh, what are you going to say about this one?
I did it. Mark has a really nice collection. No, there's some really cool pieces as well. You might be able to see in the little perspex blocks, they've all got pieces of original prop monsters, because a lot of the props from the 60s and 70s deteriorate, especially if they were latex. And one of the companies, Reliquary, the prop Reliquary, has this idea of when they're restored, they take the original pieces that have fallen off and they mount them so fans can have a reasonably priced original prop in their collection, or a fragment of one.
Look, even as a non-Doctor Who person, I can look at that and go, yeah, look, it's all very, very impressive. So well done, Mr. Mark. So there you go. It's worth $1 or $2, as it were.
And those are, I would say, screen-used money from Doctor Who. There's one episode of Doctor Who where David Tennant puts his sonic screwdriver up against an auto teller and all the money sprays out everywhere. But they made Doctor Who money for it, and it ended up getting onto eBay and all over the place. So that's a really cool piece to have.
Yeah, very, very groovy.
And there's some more of the prop reliquary pieces of original props, and they've been displayed with the corresponding Eagle Moss piecework figures that come out in the newsagents about once every 2 weeks, and I can never find any of the ones that I want.
Very good stuff, and I think that's the last of it. So in the future, it'll when we do a re-recording of this show, I'll just say to Aaron, just say, dude, that's a Dalek, that's a Cyberman, that's a picture, that's a poster, that's a piece, that's a dollar bill, move on.
You might as well host it then.
Yeah, well, exactly.
So
right.
Thanks, Mark, for sharing. I think everyone is impressed by that little piece of the collection that you've shown us. So thanks, mate.
No, very, very cool. Thomas says he can't react to the comments. Yeah, we're seeing your comments, Thomas, so it's all good. And Carol said, that's an awesome collection, and it is very, very cool. Sorry, man, I cut you off.
Just a quick point. There was a documentary made by some of the Doctor Who team over lockdown called Doctor Who Lockdown that looked at fans and how they collected during lockdown, and Mark's collection does feature on that. So if you are looking for a fan DVD that shows different people's collecting during lockdown, that's one to check out as well.
So, Mark, you're probably personally responsible for Doctor Who fans currently licking their screens, which I shouldn't say that, because currently means that, it's Aaron and I on the screen currently. Make of that what you will. But just a few moments ago, let us say. So I still reckon the Cyberman Sipper Cup is the way to go. So there you go. Very good stuff. All right. I like this one from Gavin. All collections are awesome from a certain point of view. That's a polite way of saying some are really shit, but from a certain point of view, they're okay. So there you go. Love it. Everything's all down to our point of view. All right. So I suppose we should move on. So it's obviously a bit of news, and here we go. And I think I missed the logo for that. So let's get into it.
That's okay. We've got so much tonight. It doesn't matter, does it? There's a lot of people who are Gremlins fans, and the Gremlins figures there have actually been released before. They were released about 8 years ago and sold out straight away, but NECA are bringing them back, and they're bringing them back, and the sort of hook to get people to buy them again, they've also brought out for the first time a Gremlins accessory pack. So you can buy some of the original Mogwai, but now you can buy this pack, and it will customize your Mogwai and Gremlin figures, so you can go and buy a couple of the same one, and then you buy this pack and you can change them into different versions from the movie. So you've got the Gremlins pods, which when you put them like that, look like the alien eggs, don't they?
Yeah, it's a little bit off. I always used to make that joke. They used to say, don't feed them after midnight, but they never specified which time zone you were working towards. So you could say it's like 4 PM, i.e., here's my Mogwai, I'll give him some chow, and he starts turning into a gremlin because it's after midnight in like Uzbekistan or something. Who knew? But yes. This one looks like it's straight out of like a horror movie like Halloween or something. It looks a bit iffy.
It does. He was more one of the background ones. He has one scene in the original Gremlins where he pulls a gun when they're in the bar, I think. So it's just you don't get a gremlin with the set. You just get the hood to put on one of your gremlins. I think you get the whole head actually, because it doesn't have ears. They're tucked inside the mask.
Oh, that's a good point. Where do the ears go? Yeah, exactly right. Love it. Oh, yeah, this would be a popular one.
And this is everyone's favourite, where Gizmo drives around in the Barbie car. But this one is scaled down, so it's the right scale for the NECA Mogwai and Gremlins. So that, I think, is a pretty cool little accessory from a cool scene from the movie.
Yeah, do you love the fact that suddenly in the car it's all got batteries, it's driving at really high speed and all the rest of it? You go, yeah, I'm sure the real Barbie car didn't do that, but it's only a movie. So, yeah, so it was a very, very cute sequence. So, yes, I love it. Very, very cool. Now we move on from something that's really cute and furry, and I'm not talking about Aaron, onto this.
Well, this is kind of news that's just dropped. For everyone who loved the Masters of the Universe Revelation Part 1, Part 2 starts on the 23rd of November. So I know some people really loved it and some people are just like, move along. But I kind of thought it was okay. I thought it was a lot of fun. Here's one of the new figures they've announced, as well as announcing the date. And this is Savage He-Man. And he's coming with Orko. So that's a combination I don't think anyone saw coming. So Orko hadn't been released from Revelation, and that's a variant of He-Man, Savage He-Man. So they're the first lot of figures announced from the second part of the He-Man Revelations series.
Yeah, it's very interesting because I heard, like, Andrew sometimes joins us, mention that there's another He-Man series on Netflix, and I saw the ad for it today. I was thinking, isn't that interesting? You've got two shows based on exactly the same franchise. Now, I know Star Trek does this all the time and whatever else, but you'd almost be arguing, sure, there must be fans who go, oh, I love Revelations, I hate Revelations, but I love this other show, I hate this other show. It must be, like, really confusing for fans. Have you seen the new show at all? Well, I assume it's you.
I watched about 2 episodes and it was pitched a bit too kids for me, so I didn't think there was anything wrong with it. I just haven't watched the whole thing yet. There was so many other things to binge.
Yeah, well, exactly right. So very, very cool. And Jess said, yeah, it doesn't even look like He-Man. But yeah, that's the thing. They're redesigning and designing these things on a regular basis, and things just morph and change as they go along. But some people go, oh my God, that is just grouse, even though it looks nothing like the original character. So, and I tend to agree. When you look at this dude, it's like, if you didn't know who it was, take the Orko out of it. You go, it could be anybody, just a random caveman. So,
well, he's branded as the figure's called Savage He-Man, and the original couple of comics where he was more of a barbarian, Ola the Barbarian, he kind of looked a lot more like a savage wilderness wanderer. But in the mythology of the show, there's a whole lot of different versions of He-Man in Revelation, so he's just one of those.
So you could easily imagine this version of He-Man, when he wants to catch up with Teela, he just clubs her over the head and just drags her off by the hair. My name is Ugg. So very, very cool. All right, now we're going to move on to something that's absolutely fantastic. So we're going to get away from the Uggs, and I think it's like this has become an awesome segment unto itself. Of course, it's good old Greg King's. I keep saying Greg King's cheaper things, and after what happened last week, it's just an absolute ball terror tonight. So where do you want to start, old son?
Well, I think we're going to look at the follow-up from last week with the clone helmet. For those who haven't been following, we ordered the clone helmet, the Commander Cody one on the left there. We got a very dodgy rubber one, which bears no resemblance to what we ordered. And I had a back and forward with the people at customer service there. And the last one was them telling me that they didn't think that the bugs that I had sent a picture out of the helmet that they had sent us. And the emails we've got, I haven't put all of them down, just the highlights, but we've got to read them because they're pretty funny. Now, this is a customer service from some dodgy company, and I'm sure they were only stringing me out for a couple of weeks so I can't do a PayPal claim. But they said to me, dear friend, Halloween is a time of year for fooling people, and I think you are trying to fool us. This vermin mask is not our product. We do not wish evil on children. We are a happy company. Do not say these lies about us. Please do not try to trick us. We know your intent, and it is not true. We will not send you a new mask because, again, you will say it is not what is intended. Max.
Now, I think it's just very quickly before I move on, that line, please do not try and trick us. Isn't that like the pot calling the kettle black?
Yes. And I sent back, I mistook the item thinking it was from you, as your piss poor product looks nothing like the handcrafted item which was shown on your website. The item is 100%, you said the item is 100% screen accurate. It is 30% screen accurate in that you got the orange right. So I think that it's you that fooled me. Luckily, I purchased this item for an online review show with millions of followers, and I have exposed your scam to the world. Your product will be shown on YouTube forever, bringing shame to your family and family for generations to come. I will now do a PayPal chargeback and reclaim my payment. Now, I think something changed over there, because up until this point, they were calling me friend. But now I get, hello, chief. I think we're dealing with someone else. It was Max, but now it's the SJ customer service team.
The irony of that, you had Max and now it's Chief. But where's 99 when you need it? Anyway, continue on.
I didn't even notice that. They're all Get Smart fans. I have read and reviewed your email, and I'm looking into your issue. Yes, I told a little fib there. Potentially millions of people could see it.
Yeah. Get on.
Please don't do bad review show on us. It is not good for us. It is not good for you. No one likes that type of negative product review show. It's just not good. Don't use words like scam. We just don't like them. We are not scams. You can see this as we sent product. I don't think that we are scam people. We are honest. We will try and resolve this as quickly as we can. The SJ customer service team. So,
and it's absolutely ridiculous. And this is all legitimate, everybody who's reading this, and like Aaron's reading this stuff. This is actually legitimate correspondence too. So, and I had to highlight a couple of points because I couldn't help myself.
Yes. So after a couple of other emails, they actually watched the show, because I sent them a link to say, we've done a bad review on your product. And they sent this back. We watched your show and it's a joke. You do not have the millions of viewers you told us that you have. You have 10. Who is this Greg King? Why make this soul the expert on what is good and what is bad? Why doesn't he clean his house? Don't put our product in his garbage mountain and say that it's worse than all that he has there. This is probably ground zero for vermin infestation, if you ask. We will try to resolve this as quickly as we can. The SJ customer service team. Now, I think that's pretty funny. So now Greg King's Stranger Things is endorsed by the SJ Trading customer service team.
So Greg is now famous. That is absolutely awesome. Trying to invent some new. Now, on a serious note of this, because there's not a lot of there's more humorous than anything else. But on a serious note regarding this, the thing that has pissed me, and I mean this legitimately, really pissed me off, is that amongst all this entire correspondence, at no point have they acknowledged that they sent a dodgy product. They haven't even addressed the fact that the helmet they sent is nothing like the one that was advertised. And all they've been talking about is worrying about saving their own face and their own image, rather than saying, yeah, we're cocked up, we've taken you for a scam, da da da. It's not even like any of that acknowledgement whatsoever. I think it kind of pisses me off, actually. So,
and you can testify every couple of days. I've been sending you the next bunch of replies that I've got for them. And when this is all over and resolved, we'll put all the slides together and put all of the correspondence up, so anyone who wants to can have a read of it if they want. But it is pretty funny. But we move on to other stuff, do we, Dags?
Hang on for a sec. So Christy said, yeah, we can't breathe laughing. You're obviously one of our 10 viewers, so you got to love that. But the fact they actually signed in, they must have sat there waiting for the number to jump up to 1 million and go, oh, there's only 10. We're missing about 7 zeros. Jesus Christ. And Thomas thought he should have put the wine away a bit earlier. So there you go. And, of course, Greg himself. Who is this Greg King? Why is he such a cool dude? So there's absolutely love it. And that's, we're laughing about it, but there's actually a bit of a serious side to it. But isn't that absolutely fantastic? But as of right now, Aaron's still got a dodgy helmet, and he's still got to try and get, or not even a helmet, a mask thing, and he's still got to get his money back. But we move on, because that's not the end of it. We got this.
No, this is a bumper episode of the show, because stuff has started to turn up, which is where this segment pays off, because hopefully we'll be able to be ordering stuff and reviewing stuff at the same time and saving everyone from potentially buying dodgy items online. Now, you might remember these were a handsome set of leather-bound prop replica books that we purchased from the Dark Crystal, the Labyrinth, and the Never-Ending Story. And you can see they look quite nice, and the description was they are the original books, and then they've been rebound in leather, handcrafted with etching and detail inlaid, and the real nice items. And I bought them when they were 50% off, so they were $33.99 each. So we actually got these this week. This is what we ordered. This is what we got.
And Christy said she's been hankering around. Obviously, Christy was keen on getting these, so she's very keen to see what these things look like. And Mark, the suspense is killing you. Oh, we'll just drag it out. We'll do what they do on like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever. We'll just drag it out for a few extra seconds more. But here we go.
So this wasn't the total disaster that the Clone Trooper helmet was. It is totally different from what they advertised. As you can see, each book is a different size. On the original advert, they were all sort of hardback, the size of a standard library book. These ones, there's storybook size and small notebook size and one mid in between. The thing that is disappointing about them is 2 of the 3 books do not contain the whole book. So the Dark Crystal is the entire book of the Dark Crystal, rebound with a crystal on the front and with the crystal inlaid into it, and then highlights. And it has been, I guess, covered in the most genuine Chinese faux leather plastic that you can get your hands on. So
it's completely authentic.
It wasn't too bad an item. The Never-Ending Story has a suede type cover. It has the Oran on it, and it is a sort of, it must be a cast resin, and then it's been painted like bronze. And I've highlighted one of the corners of as well, where the corners sort of have that sort of bronze look to the corner of them, which is quite nice. Now, in the picture next to it, though, you can just see they've banged it through the cover of the book and then bent the pins backwards to keep it in place. So when you looked at the video of what you were getting and it was lovingly made and all that was hid underneath like end papers that they did, they've just done the cheapest sort of handmade hammer it through that you could do. The Never-Ending Story has about a quarter of the book in. So if you were getting it to read, you'd read about a quarter of the book. It talks about the wolf that is tracking down Atreyu, and then the story just ends. So you have that whole Simpsons thing where Lionel Hutz took the makers of the Never-Ending Story to court over, the product actually ending. This doesn't even have the whole book. And the same thing with the Labyrinth. The Labyrinth does look like the product they advertised, but the book ends where Hoggle and Sarah and Ludo are entering the bog of eternal stench. So it basically says everything stinks, and Sir Didymus hides in a tree, and that's where it ends. So she doesn't rescue Toby. She doesn't save him from the Goblin King. She doesn't get back home. So it's one of those things where it kind of does look not too bad. I wouldn't say that they were absolute trash, but I wouldn't say they were worth what we paid for them either. So it's still a dodgy item. So here's a side-by-side comparison. You can see my ones are on the top left, and then on the blue velvet is the ones they advertised. And you can see they're all sort of the same size. The Labyrinth looks pretty much identical side by side in the photographs. The Dark Crystal, the crystal I've got is smaller than the one that they have on the book. And when you look at their book, the sort of bones around the edge are sort of inlaid and raised, where on my book, they're just a stencil that's been painted. The Never-Ending Story probably looks the nicest because it's got that sort of faux suede leather look. It doesn't have the same finish as the one that you can see that they advertised, and you can see their one looks better because the inlay and the metalwork or the faux metalwork on the smaller book makes it look a lot nicer. That said, if you went to Artist Alley at a convention and there were some people there that had said, these aren't the full books, they're just prop replicas if you want a copy of the book that looks nice on your shelf, and this is $29, you'd probably say, yeah, that's probably worth it. It's not a total ripoff. The ripoff is more that they said this is the full book, and what they actually said it was they didn't deliver on. So it's not a total fail, but it's still not good value.
So I like Rob's definition of the entire thing. Yeah, Grig King's shithouse thing. So there you go. And that actually term is probably not far from being totally inaccurate because of the next thing that came up, which was this.
Now, this was the item I was really looking forward to receiving because it was either going to be something awesome or something really crap. Now, where the last one, I'm going to say I'll let it slide and I wouldn't do a payback on because I got the books. This is an absolute ripoff. Let's just say it's not even Jumanji related what I got. And when I got it, I was pretty shocked at how low quality what I got actually was. So what we were meant to be getting was a prop replica of the Jumanji board game. It actually has a light up screen that shines messages through for questions and it makes sound from the game. It had magnetic pieces that move around the board and if they fall over, they'll pop up by themselves. It's exactly screen accurate. It's in a fold up wooden handcrafted box. It was originally, I think, $199, reduced to $49. So I was really looking forward to getting this. This is what we ordered. This is what we got. Now, you cannot see from the pictures, because I've taken okay pictures, you cannot see how cheap and nasty this piece of crap is. It's not the Jumanji game. It is Trivial Pursuit Unhinged, which is amazing because the unhinged thing is there is no Trivial Pursuit or cards. They've advertised it as Trivial Pursuit Unhinged. What it was is a generic board game, and you could get one of about 8 different games at random, and the board flips over, so one side is Snakes and Ladders and the other side is a different game. It is on that cheapest of cheap chipboard fiber card stuff, so it isn't even a nice board. It's like that sort of stuff, if you flick a corner, it'll start flaking away on you. It is like a big placemat that doesn't fold. Here's what I thought I was getting, the lovely Jumanji game in presentation box. Instead, I got a less than $2, maybe down at Phillip Island on your holiday house for a rainy day that no one ever plays kind of thing. But it was no resemblance. Here we go again. Look at the finely crafted playing pieces in the bottom left corner there. You've got the rhino and the jaguar and the monkey. And look at the generic, horrible Ludo pieces there. You've got the rhino and the jaguar and the monkey and like some dead guy. The game itself, there's nothing to do with Jumanji. It's just one of those board games. Like I said, one side is Snakes and Ladders and the other side is some kind of roll the dice and go around the board type of game.
I'm going to cut you off there. There's a classic line here from good old Rico saying it's a reboot. They rebooted and this is how it's meant to be. So I love that one.
Jumanji, the Snyder cut. But
yeah, I love it.
And so, as you can see down the bottom, Trivial Pursuit Unhinged, develop brain, improve thinking, ability, and concentration. All of this for a mere $82.
Sorry, hang on. I was going to say just quickly. David said Snakes and Ladders like nothing like Jumanji. Well, as was mentioned earlier, it's all from a certain point of view.
So, and you can see. You can see they gave me 2 sets of dice and players, so I got really lucky with that. If I lose one set, I've got another set there. But that has to be one of the most disappointing things. You would not buy that in an op shop for 50 cents.
Well, with that in mind, Gregor said he would actually put that in the garage sale for. In fact, he wouldn't even do that, and and it actually makes the Clone Trooper helmet actually look quite good. So S&J need to look at what these guys are selling. Go, you know what, our stuff isn't that bad after all. So unbelievable. So what are you trying to say there, Mr. Aaron, about these particular items?
Well, what do we think about the value of them?
Oh, you're actually asking me, are you?
Oh, well, yes, it's. I guess it's Greg's catchphrase, isn't it? Now that's a poor value.
We'll get there in the end.
So I have sent I only got these yesterday, so I've sent a barrage of emails off to them to see if I will get a response for them. And I've also sent back to CJ Trading saying, A, because they opened the link to our page, I've unleashed a virus on their computer and can see everything. And B, that I think that they have also sent us a Jumanji game and some leather-bound books and pictures of that to see if they'll own up to that as well. So that'll keep going and we'll see how that goes.
Very, very good. And Jess has said, what a waste of money. But actually, it wasn't, because it's provided all this entertainment for this particular show. So for that reason, it has actually been fantastic. And yeah, you're right, Jess. We can't wait. We wait to see what we find next.
The reason I'm doing it is so you don't have to do it, and we can see what turns up. And it is a bit of fun, and I think it is worth it, the payoff. Now, here is Greg's table of thrift. We still haven't received the first thing we ordered, which was a $45 Transformer mystery box. We've got the clone helmet, and it was rejected by Greg. We've got the books. Out of 10 stars, Greg has given them 2 stars. So it is a very, very, very poor product. Now, I don't know if people realize that was like $33 each plus postage. So they cost $142 for those books. Suddenly they don't seem as passable as they might have. We haven't got the horror mystery box. Hopefully we get that for our Halloween show. And then we've got the Jumanji game, and that was a total reject as well. So that's where we're standing at the moment from Greg King's Cheaper Things.
Very good. And while we're doing that, I'll get you to turn your phone off, because it just went ding and it came right through the speakers.
My phone is off. It's the computer picking up anyway.
Very, very, very good. Yes, thrift should be grift. Yeah, exactly right. So it's very, very good stuff. But guess what, kids? It's not over. It's crap. Well, as I said, it's all from a certain point of view. So just keep that in mind. Obviously, the people who sent this stuff out thought, oh, mate, this is value for money. What are these people complaining about? Unbelievable. It's damn Australians, mate. They just don't take quality when they see it in the face. Speaking of things that are... What?
It's the source of vermin infestation.
Absolutely fantastic. Speaking of things that are all things vermin infested, well, not really, but it's sort of nice, bit of a dodgy segue into the next segment. Don't start drinking your wine yet, Thomas, because we've got this, the Lord Vile's Vile File. Oh, my goodness gracious. Everybody loves a bit of Vile action.
So the Lord Vile is back, and he's being very kind to us this week, because he is actually going to open up his vinyl vaults and share with us his Vile vinyl record collection. So Lord Vile was perusing the internet, and he saw there are actually a lot of these books on the greatest album covers ever, and you can see some of the bands there that have used famous artists, and you know, there are very iconic imagery. There's a book there of vinyl vixens, sort of all the girls from lounge music records of the 60s. And he thought, if there is a place in the market for a vinyl book, he has got the perfect one. It is his Vile Vinyl File. And this is volume 1, because his record collection is quite extensive. In fact, I was showing Dags, and it's so extensive, there's a lot of stuff we can't actually show on the show.
No. Yes. If you need to look at, was it WA Snatch? I think it was, or something like that. You look at their album cover. They only produced one album, but I tell you what, that's a cover that's going to be around for a long time to come. But we move on.
So yeah, we've got a countdown, which is a bit different this week. We've got the top 10 vilest record covers of all time. Like I said, he could push the envelope and make them even viler, but the top 10 vilest record covers we can show on our show of all time.
Yeah, maybe little Babu Frick can't handle it, so we have to sort of scale it back a little bit. But let's kick it all off, shall we? Because this is a segment that just keeps on giving.
I know, this is a segment that Gavin would be jealous of. So number 10, we get The Circus is in town. Now these are all, by the way, real albums that were available and you could find in your local K-Tel or op shop bargain bin. Now, what is fantastic about this, of all the clowns they could have got from the circus, they look like they've got the biggest serial killer they could find. And I don't know how they've got that kid smiling, but obviously the rest of his family is just off screen about to be murdered, and they're like, smile, kid, or the clown will eat you.
Yeah, you can just imagine the clown saying to the little kid, "Would you like a boiled, a boiled lolly?" Oh, God damn it. Now,
So,
actually, hang on. Joel said a classic record. I'm expecting people to say, "Shit, I've actually got these in my collection." So there you go.
some of these possibly be put in could come from your collection. Like I said, these are all genuine records, and the Vial is sharing with us tonight.
So, but what's the trade-off that goes with number 10, old son?
Well, we're doing the countdown. Number 9, he found a record that kind of is probably what the clown looks like without the makeup on. And the name of this record is If I Should Touch You. And he's looking very pensive, like, who will I be touching tonight? So this is the record that was after the circus one, and we've got like a very awkward pairing of records there. The circus is in town. If I Should Touch You. So that's number 9 from the Vial Vinyl Vault.
You are right, Mr. Joe. The clown is definitely not from the ET or the IT. Jesus Christ, that's just my brain thinking. The It soundtrack. Yes, and you're right. The Scary Camera was on a bad morning, but that's not the end of it. It's going to get a little bit worse than that because we're on the countdown. So number 8 has got to be this.
Jesus Use Me. The faith.
And
I can hardly say it. Jesus Use Me. The Faith tunes. There's a party threesome there if I've ever seen them, with some fantastic beehives, which I think you probably inspired the B-52s. So I guess this is one of those, you probably didn't know that even though the Vial is a Sith Lord, he is quite open to having records of other religions in his Vial Vinyl Vault. And this one, obviously, he would love to have a harem of Sith witches if he could convert those lovely young ladies.
I can't help but imagine just like Jesus used me because they've never been used or abused. God damn it. And of course, when you buy... I'm going to get myself in a lot of trouble here. When you buy this, it's all completely sealed because obviously it's meant in a box. Oh, Jesus.
No, it took the Vial to violate them.
I think we should move on to number 7 before we get blacklisted by the internet.
This is very interesting because we're still on the touchy-feely theme. He touched me. And what's interesting about that, Jesus used me, and then it looks like one of the sisters has gone solo and he touched her. So the record of praise actually worked for this young lady, and she's even wearing the same blue top, which is amazing. Truck stop.
Oh dear, I can't actually read the message. My eyes are gone foggy because I can't read the messages. And he's now in prison.
They're all in prison and they enjoy it there.
Oh, geez, Colin doesn't come with a center spread. Bloody hell. All right, let's get in bed out of control. Number 6, move on.
Okay. Laying down a beat on Uranus. So everyone knows that laying down a beat is like, putting down a drum track on something. So laying down a beat on Uranus, that one speaks for itself, really, doesn't it?
I'll tell you what, Thomas, when I saw these pictures come through today, even I struggled to keep it together then. So, and having the messages isn't helping us. So it's actually, but yeah, very good. Oh, look at this is following up with.
He touched me. Again, the vinyl has a lot of issues that seem to, if subliminally you choose your music when you're wandering back in his day through Brash's bargain section, probably, he has a lot of let's just say the Sith religion is a very touchy-feely one.
I'm going to comment here. I'm going to love this one. Christy said, nope, not going there. Go, Christy, you've got to go there. Oh, my goodness gracious me.
Joel's uncle had that record.
Oh, golly. It's just, yeah. So,
all I can say is
it's
lucky Luke's in bed today.
Yeah, probably, yeah. But anyway, the countdown continues.
Number 4, expose yourself to Cajun music. And I love how he's done the wacky thing where he's exposing himself like a flasher, because, you know, that was probably a good idea at the time, wasn't it? So he's exposing everyone to Cajun music.
Love it. Very, very cool. And that's obviously going to be followed up with number 3, which has got to be this.
Let Me Touch Him. So it's another pair up where the two records work together. Expose yourself to Cajun music. And then we've got a handsome trio of, a quadruplet of studs there. Let Me Touch Him. So whatever he is showing them, they must be inspired to have a touch.
That's just wrong, isn't it? I love it. And the smoothest. Oh, it's just so wrong, isn't it? I mean, yeah. Oh, yeah, just absolutely unbelievable. So, and yeah, just be aware of the language. This is actually a family show. So, unbelievable. So, isn't that absolutely insane? So, those 4 guys, they say that's a great name for our album, and away we went. So, yeah, it's exactly right. Pre-Backstreet Boys. Absolutely love it.
The next group is kind of pre-Backstreet Boys. When we go to number 2, I think the Wankers. Now, what's interesting about this name was not intended to be rude. That was the name of a band. I think it is a Latin American band, the Wankers, and they have the most wanking hits of any record I think the Vile has in his collection. So there's a few brothers there. I think the names of them are on it. It's a bit too small for me to read, but I do remember the last one. It was all crazy names, and then the last one was Antony. So
they actually released a couple of songs, and nobody thought that any of them would become hits, but in the end, they were able to pull it off. Oh my goodness gracious! I know it's just like. Heck yeah! Imagine that they're playing in the city tonight, like when everything's open up, and you say, "I'm off into the town to go and see some wankers."
Well, do you know they've probably only been a backup band, so they might have been wanking in the '80s for Duran Duran or something like that, you know. So I don't think they ever achieved I don't think they ever achieved the fame to be headliners themselves.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, Colin, stop. Well, we can't stop because we've still got to get to number 1. And I love this one from good old Rob about saying it's Spankin's favourite band. And, of course, Spankin is this. Oh, my goodness gracious, man.
Spankin the Monkey and the Wankers on the one.
I love this one. Make it off the go. Jesus Christ.
Now, number one, we have to set the tone here. This would have been something that the Vile bought as a bit of a public service announcement kind of record, because it is a serious record that was put out in the 80s, and it is one that has a very, very good message, but it is one that is like just totally bizarre. It's shall we just go to number 1 and show it?
Yeah, I got to say, I don't think this would have a lot of replay value, but anyway, let's get into it.
This is the Webster album. Now, people may remember Webster from the 80s. There was a time in the 80s where if you had a little black kid and your kidneys had bonsai'd them, like Arnold from Different Strokes, you'd get a TV show. And Webster got a TV show in the 80s. But he also released this album, Webster, Good Secrets, Bad Secrets. And it's basically a record that teaches kids, how should we put it, the importance of not being molested by adults. So
yeah, that's actually you don't have to put it in a certain way. It's actually written on the cover. The important new recording that teaches children how to avoid molestation. Now, you reckon that's going to be a number 1 on the hit parade? So, and this is what it looks like inside.
Well, all I can say is, isn't that going to be the most disappointing record you get for Christmas? If you were a kid and you're expecting during the 80s the chart-topping Wham album like Last Christmas or something like that, and you opened up this present and you got Webster giving you like a audio guide on how not to be molested by adults. The idea is there, but I can't believe anyone went with it. That is absolutely, I mean,
you wouldn't
crazy.
need it in stereo. Sorry, I cut you off. Go on.
No, it's just absolutely crazy that they thought it was going to be something that would sell.
Yeah, they could have released it in quadraphonic audio. That's what they needed to do. And I love this one from Mark here, A Pour Different Strokes. Hang on. After this, I need to... This is a good one. Oh, so Christy needs a shower because the violation is worse than usual. Well, some of those albums will probably do it to you, so I'm not surprised by that at all. And Joel reckons he might have actually had that record. So, yes. Yeah, okay, Fairy Man. Where are we? Listen to the album, Can I Touch Him? Yeah, very good. Gavin, who sanctioned these? Well, at the time, it probably just comes under the heading of like it was a good idea, but you know, in retrospect, you can probably look back and go, well, maybe not. So, but yeah, I agree with Aaron. You wouldn't give this to your kid and go, here you go, son, listen to this. Don't about listen to like top hits of the 40s or something. Yes, good stuff. So unbelievable. Yes, very, very good. So there you go. So what do you reckon, kids, about all these particular records? What do you reckon, dude?
Well, that was the Viles Vinyl File Volume 1. He has many, many records in his collection, and I think he will be sending us some more into peruse and sample at future dates. But the Wankers, the Circus, the Uranus, all the Touching Me albums, the Cajun Exposure album, and Webster have now all been officially violated. I think,
so people out there, if you're loving these segments, you got to tell the world about them. The more we get more people to watch this stuff, the better it will be, and we'll have a whale of a time. How about that, eh? Isn't that absolutely unbelievable?
It's
so
crazy. And
I mean,
think what is interesting is usually it's visual, but now the Vile has also orally violated us as well with his musical tastes. So
unbelievable. Because one of the things that we discussed when Aaron was sending the pictures through is that, I mean, some people deliberately produce albums for shock value, right? So as we said, like the WA Snatch thing, if you ever look that up, that's just a ridiculous cover. But these ones are not intended to be humorous. These are actually intended to be serious, you know, and they would have actually like looked at the artwork and go, yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. So, and the titles, of course, can't knock it. What can I say? And yes, William, I think in some way, without even hearing a single word of any of those vinyls, we have indeed been touched by the collection. So, and it puts Captain Feathersword to shame. Love it. Hang on, Joel does actually have that Webster record. Well, wow. There you go, son. So, well, you're going to be safe from any predators. So, because you've listened to the record and you've been told what to do when bad things start occurring. So, very, very good. All right. Anything you want to say before we move on, old son?
No, just I guess what you were saying. It's crazy that those albums were released and have aged so badly. And I do wonder what covers and what albums are released now that 30, 40 years from now, people will be going, what the hell was that all about? But I guess we won't know.
I love it. And also, Joel, just the final, so you can say everything I learned in life, I learned from Webster, a little black kid from a TV show in the 80s. Absolutely. There you go. You learn everything from the screen. What can we say? All right, we got to move along after all that. And it's time for... Ooh, baby, do you know what that's worth? All right, so what are we talking about eBaying tonight, old son?
I've totally forgotten. What were we talking about?
It's I think a bit of McDonald's toys, mate.
Oh yeah, that's right. After last week, we had the premiums from the food from Woolworths and things like that. We thought that was so much fun, and it fooled everyone so much that we're doing McDonald's Happy Meals and giveaways and related stuff today. So maybe you'll have a bit of a better idea of what some of this stuff goes for. I mean, it's produced by a clown. Come on, guys.
Yeah, it's interesting. So McDonald's toys, like I mean, other fast foods have been doing this for like decades, and we actually discussed like who would actually collect this stuff, and would there be a value to it? And these are all toys that were produced, you know, it's like with your Happy Meals and whatever from McDonald's, and there's a whole range of them. So, but anyway, what are we kicking off with first?
Oh, well, this is an interesting one because it's like a double thing that people collect. Well, triple almost. It's Disney because it's from Aladdin, and it's Beanie Babies, and we all know Beanie Babies are worth a fortune, and it's McDonald's, so it's got that triple threat potential of being soft toys that are worth an absolute fortune.
Joe, if it helps at all, I actually heard that once mentioned in a wedding where the groom used that comment about his bride when he first met her, and that's a true story. For those people out there who've never seen this before, I don't think everybody pretty much has. These are all sold items, so just write down what you think what they sold for. Don't Google it or anything like that. Just take a bit of a guess, and you might win some bragging rights. There you go, as opposed amongst like recognition from your peers, which are the rest of the audience. All right, so. Beanie Babies and stuff from McDonald's. What do we got here? So Dollar said 179. Greg has already kicked off with $2 each. Angie's gone for the $5,000 for some unknown reason. Mick, good to see Mick joining the show. $25. Jared's at $350. Moneybag Sullivan's at $40. Chrissy's at $100. Carol's at $595. Thomas at 75. I like this one from Grant. 5 MacBucks. Absolutely love it. Good to see Grant joining the show. Violating the Beanie Babies. And I'll tell you what, I'd pay $1 to see that. Is the Violet $5. Luke has finally joined us. 1 cent. Okay, I don't know why you'd bother, but some things have sold for a cent before. Marcus said Greg's 2 plus mine $4. Rob is at 10. Dave's at 12. Colin, $100 plus a McHappy meal. William's at 20, and Jess is at $60. So, what would these be worth? So, from the 2000 McDonald's, so the Beanie Babies, and very, very exciting stuff. So, it's all very cool, very, very groovy. What do we reckon they went for? Well, they went for a whopping $1,000 How ridiculous is that?
I know, $1,000. That was one of those things I was surprised to. I didn't think anyone collected Beanie Babies anymore. I thought there was, a global supply that was 4 times the demand, and one's given away at McDonald's. There must be doubly as much. But obviously, maybe the Australian ones were rare and wanted overseas or something like that. But $1,000 for those if you've got them tucked away in your kid's wardrobe.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, isn't it? I tell you what, Andrew's not too bad. He gets $4,000 back if he was to get it. I can't kind of tell. I think Jared, 700 and something bucks short. There could be somebody else who's got it, but either way, no one was even remotely close. And I agree with you, Mark. I mean, that's just completely insane. And who would? I agree, Joel. That's a good word. Idiots. Absolutely 100% on that one. So there you go. But we move on. A pure and utter madness. Like this one, God. No, God's the next item that we're going to be selling. So very, very cool. Okay, let's move on, shall we? Here we go. Look at that.
Well, if anyone during the first lockdown played a game, Among Us, it was a game basically with the bad guy was infiltrating through looking like the good guys. You had to work out who was who, and my son was playing it all the time. Now this is a very special item. This is a chicken McNugget that looks like the characters from Among Us. So someone has not eaten it when they found it in their bucket, and they have whacked it on eBay to see if there is any interest in. so $750 straight away.
So I love this one from Jess Morons. That's actually, yes, I totally agree with that one. All right, so you're right. Where is Gavin? If it's a chicken McNugget, I mean, it's probably gone off by now, except for all the preservatives they put in these things. So Gavin has kicked us off with $750. Joe's got no freaking idea whatsoever. Angie's still sticking with his 5,000. Joel has said 17. I agree. Hang on, sorry, Joe. It looks like a tooth, doesn't it? So I hate to see what kind of mouth that goes into. Hang on. There's a classic line back here. I've just got to pick this one. The Vile said, I can hear their hands beating on your ass. Mika said 120. Oh my God, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Moneybag Sullivan has said 5. Colin said 1,000. I was in medical. Sorry, William has said 7. Spankin joining us for tonight, which is absolutely fantastic. You've always got time for a spankin. Love it. 50 cents. Where are we? Hang on, I've lost my spot. Praise this. Marcus said 10 cents was no source on it. Thomas said $3.50. Carol said $1 round figures. Violating this piece of chicken is the Violet 55 cents. Robert said $2. Jess is at 66. Jared's at 50 cents. Talk about someone's had 5,000. We're going to 50 cents. Yeah, good on you, Dave. Free mold for a cent. Absolutely. Greg is keeping his $2. Love that. Connie, good to see Connie joining the show. Can you have fries with that? You bloody well deserve them if you're going to buy this on eBay. $20, definitely. Chrissy's got 45 cents. Very good. Hang on. Yeah. I can't believe this. Lucas just made a mention about the Webster thing. Dad teaches me everything. You'll pass on the record, Dad. Oh, God damn it. Very, very good. And Luke, he said, I shouldn't have to be $50. So there you go. Isn't this absolutely ridiculous? It is a chicken McNugget of all things. So rare among us. That's all they wrote. And there were 2 bids. So clearly a couple of people thought this was worth fighting over. So what do you reckon it went for? Do you get fries with it? It went for a whopping $1,000.
Sometimes I have got to say, sometimes I get the munchies, but not $1,000 for chicken nugget munchies.
Unbelievable. Isn't that is now earlier on Joel and said idiots, and I agree with that, and Jess said morons, and I definitely agree with that. I mean, how can you describe anyone score? How can anybody justify that? I mean, that is ridiculous. So there are people who really need their heads read on this one. So yep, totally, yep, absolutely, Joel, you're on the money on that one. So yes, exactly right.
Didn't say anything is a good collectible from a certain point of view.
Yeah, yes, exactly right. So Gavin's words are coming back to haunt us. So there you go. And I agree, William. Yeah, but people are stupid. People will do crazy things, and only afterwards they go, "What the hell?"
We all say it's a piece of crap, but if we told Gavin it was a headless Yoda, he'd buy it.
Painted green, nobody will ever know. After a while, it'll probably go green by itself. So there you go. All right, we move on. Oh, Pogs, mate. How good's this?
Now, here's something that everyone remembers: Pogs, immortalized by The Simpsons. Alf's back in Pog form, but these are McDonald's ones, and these were celebrating McDonald's over the different eras. So you can see that they've got different eras of advertising from McDonald's through the years. This was the anniversary in '94, what would that have been? We've just done the 50th anniversary, so work backwards from that. But it's the full set of 8 Pogs. They're from 1994. How much would you expect to pay? I tell you what,
I love this one, Gavin. Sorry, hang on.
I like the Pogs better than the McNugget.
Yeah, very true. Gavin has actually confirmed, yes, he would actually buy that green Yoda McNugget if it became available. So there you go. All right, so Pogs, what are they going for? 55 for Colin, who got the last one. Ange has taken a leaf out of Colin's book and gone for the 1,000. Luke is at 800. Joel's at 720. Jess is also at 1,000. Grant is at 5, so he's not thinking they're worth much. Carol's at 250. Actually, that's a good point, Mr. Vile. Get your McNuggets and then carve them up into different shapes and then flog them off on eBay. Nobody will ever know. Where are we? Sorry. Mark has said $1,000 as well. Mick has said 55. Thomas has said 320. Moneybag Sullivan said 250. Gavin said 1,500. Connie is at 75. Williams at 150. Violating the Pogs is the Vile at 94. Chrissy said $1.01. Spankin has said 10 spanking dollars and 1 gold nugget. Yeah, that's you when you walk in to buy them. Worth more than that. Rob has said 25. So there you go. 1994. They actually look a lot older than that too. So, but I've got to say, I reckon they look pretty cool. They've obviously gone for that really retro sort of style. And if you are a bit of a fan of McDonald's, check out the movie The Founder about how McDonald's started. It's a magnificent movie with Michael Keaton. So there you go. All right, McDonald's Pogs 1994. It's all it says. What did they go for? Well, they went for a whopping $3. And if you need to, you can pay with them after pay with 75 cents.
And I've just got to give a consumer warning. I'm 4 episodes into Foundation, and it's nothing to do with McDonald's at all yet.
It's The Founder, idiot, not Foundation.
Yeah, $3. So you just can't tell. If I would have thought they would have gone for more than that. That's less than $1 a Pog.
Grant, I think, got these and he gets $2 back. And I love it. You can play by afterpay, 75 cents. How the hell do you pay afterpay 75 cents? So everybody went for thousands because they're thinking they're going to be worth a lot of money. And there you go. I reckon that is
Christie's closer. She's $1.99 off. She was $1.01.
Was she? Hang on, I can't even find Christy. So there you go. But if Christy, if you've got it, then well done to you. Oh, here we go. $1.01. Yeah, okay. All right. Fair. I can't remember what the other one was. All right. So that, anyway, went for $3. So after all that, so can you believe it? A nugget, a chicken McNugget went for like $1,000, and these things only went for $3, and these are clearly more cooler than that.
So basically, you could sell that nugget and buy 20,000 pogs.
Yeah, very, very cool. I like this one. Yeah, the founder. Yeah, not too Mac bad. I absolutely loved the movie. Very, very cool. All right, we'll move on. Oh, look at this. It's rare. It's got to be worth money.
So this one, last week we were like surprised how much the gold Woolworths Lego figure went with his gold trolley. The McDonald's did the same thing. They did a series of Minions, and hidden in amongst them were the rare gold versions. So you could get the normal ones, and then if you went and bought like 20,000 Happy Meals, you had the chance of finding the rare gold Minion. So this is the gold Minion. How much does the gold Minion go for?
And you are right, Mr. Greg. You should have put your $2 down on the last one. You may have actually got it. So there you go. All right. So, all right. Lucas said 1,000. Speaking of a headless Yoda. Very, very cool. Andrew said 50 cents. Jester said 10. Joel is at 1,000. Gavin's at 3. What a mixed bag of bunnies. Carol's 65. Mika said 185. Rob has said $1. And I'll just wait for a couple more answers to come in. McDonald's 2021. So it just came out this year. So, you'll have to put a mask on it or something when you pick it up. Who was it? Rob was at $1. Moneybag Sullivan said 5. Collins at 200. Williams at 400. Greg is definitely dropping down the $2 on this one. Sue's joining the show for the first time tonight, which is absolutely fantastic at 200. Spankin 250 McNuggets. Mark is at 10. Thomas is at 120. I like this, Gavin. Yeah, we are all a mixed bag, which is what makes the show really enjoyable. Violating this headless gold Yoda is the Violet 900, and Christy said 45. So there you go. Very, very cool. It is used. Rare gold Minion, McDonald's 2021. It only probably came out only a few months ago. What do you reckon it went for? It went for a whopping 5 cents.
So what a difference. The gold Coles Man, which is currently available, went for $450 or whatever last week. But the gold Minion obviously isn't as desirable as the gold Woolworths Lego figure. So 5 cents for that one.
Ange actually gets 45 cents back. So, yeah. I mean, as I've said to you once before, and you just, why would you bother? I mean, it's not even like $8 to post it. I mean, that's just bullshit, isn't it? So, yeah, yeah. And I agree with you, Jess. It's not surprising. I mean, the time and effort you took to put it up on eBay, it's like, why would you even bother? But there you go. So good on you, Andrew, the proud owner of a gold headless Yoda. So from this year, just make sure you wear your mask and your gloves when you pick it up. You get a bit of PPE chucked in for nothing. How good is that? All right, our last one for this evening. It's Donald McRonald himself. Oh, yay.
Now, I don't know if anyone has noticed this, but all the Ronald McDonalds have disappeared from McDonald's because a couple of years ago, there was a controversy in America during Halloween. A lot of evil clowns were running around and terrorizing people, and it became so associated with McDonald's that they had to get rid of Ronald McDonald. Now, in Victoria, there are 1 or 2 McDonald's that have still got a statue, but the rest of them have been flogged off or destroyed, yeah, I guess. And this was one. Sorry.
Go on.
No, this was one that was sold locally.
See, you need to put this head on a record with the kid sitting on his lap, and he's got a chip, a French fry. He's like, hey, little boy, would you like fries with that? Oh, bad daggy. All right, let's move on, shall we? What do we got for Donald McRonald? A full size. There you go. You need a hamburger to go and pick it up, though. Where are we? Lucas said 5 cents. Oh, Luke, where's the optimism? Banger's back to his $5,000. Joel is at 667. Carol's at 500. Mick is at 850. Yeah, Sue said she never noticed it. Yeah, good old model. Yeah, Ronald McDonald. Yeah, he was a bit shifty around the kids. Mika said 850. Where are we? Collins at 500. Moneybag Sullivan's at 550. Williams at 500. A lot of fives there all of a sudden. Christie's at $7.50. Gavin's at 34. Yeah, it's a Donald McRonald. That's exactly right. I actually said that to all my friends at one point, and they couldn't actually remember what the character's real name was because I kept confusing them. Jared has given me all the 6969s. Sue's at 150. Thomas said his mate pinched one from a store and took it back the next day. Do you get your Ronald McDonald's with that? Rob's at 400, Jess is at 720, Thomas at 1500. Just banging. Ronald McDonald touched me at 8,000. George, it's the first time George popped up for the night. Yeah, we missed all the good stuff already, Mr. George, but dial off $150 and violating Ronald McDonald. I'll tell you what, I'd love to see that for 148 quarter pounders. And Adzi is joining us tonight at 1,500. Absolutely fantastic. What would you do with a full-size Donald McDonald in your house? Bring your kids over. You know it's going to be party time central. Absolutely awesome. So what did he go for? He was from the 80s as well. Jeepers creepers. So there you go. Very, very cool. They'll ship him anywhere in the world. And he went for a whopping, hold your hats, kids, $5,605. And I know who I think got that straight off the bat. What do you reckon, dude?
Well, I reckon that's actually more terrifying than the weeping angels from Doctor Who. Imagine that standing in the corner of your room, like, and every time you turned around, it moved, or cast a terrifying shadow across the wall or something. I have never thought that clowns were the most endearing of things, but a statue of Ronald McDonald, no, thank you.
Yeah, see, I actually think it would actually have some collectible value. So Ange got it. I think he has to cough up an extra almost exactly, $600 more. I can, because, McDonald's does actually have a lot of collectability associated with it. And in time, that will just go up in value, right? Because people will forget that the Donald McDonald...
Do you know
so
what
I'm still saying it. The Donald McDonald statues did exist, and then one day they're going to go, "Oh shit, remember those things?" And they go, "No, we never saw them."
You've got to put it into perspective. In McDonald's currency, that statue is only worth 5 chicken nuggets.
Hey, but it depends on the shape of those damn chicken nuggets. So there you go. Oh dear, very, very cool. All right. So I like that one from Ange. It's a McFluke. Very, very cool. All right, we are running way behind schedule, but the wait will be worth it, because it is time for our feature presentation, something really left field from what we would normally cover off. But I think this is the kind of thing where every man and his dog once watched this show because it was such a big hit. And that, of course, is the X-Files. Insert your own music. I can't whistle because I'm laughing too much. But yes, what do you reckon?
Yeah, so this is a bit different from what we usually look at, just because I think a lot of the franchises we grew up with are, older ones we grew up loving from the 60s and 70s, or ones from the 80s, but this is from the 90s. But this one had such a huge cultural impact and is so beloved by so many people. And there's a lot of merchandise, and a lot of people don't realize how much there is. Now, when I was looking back, the X-Files came out at the perfect time, because if you look at this slide, people have had a fascination with UFOs and the unexplained and government cover-ups right back to World War I almost. So people grew up with comics and pulp stories in magazines, and then the term UFO was coined in America, and then it was all the saucer people and the government taking over. And I think a lot of this sort of transposed from the Red Menace and fear of communism as well, and fear of the unknown. But a lot of those old papers are from the 40s, and the pulp fiction is from the 50s, and you start getting more mainstream comic books in the 60s as well. But we've always had a love of the unknown for some people, sort of in the back of our minds, and that goes right back generations. And some of the artwork on that's pretty fantastic as well. You could do a whole episode on, futuristic art from the 40s and 50s, and that'd be a great episode too.
I love it. Sorry, I love this comment from Joel. Yeah, the truth is out there, but no one listens. That's actually not far from the truth. So there you go. And you are right. So UFOs, especially during the 50s and the 40s, it was mainly because of the Russian Red Menace that Americans just went completely nuts. Whenever they saw a UFO, it's got to be the Ruskies. But but in the show in the 90s, sort of kicked off a whole new revival of UFOs, really, when you sit and think about it.
Yeah. So after sort of those pulp fiction magazines and sci-fi comics from the 40s and 50s and 60s, the 60s spawned TV shows, and it's where I guess it seeped more into the public psyche and more mainstream, where you could watch UFO, or you could watch In the Invaders, or movies like Close Encounters came along. And you also I've highlighted there some of the more supernatural things like Kolchak, the Night Stalker, who was one of the sort of templates that Chris Carter used on the X-Files, because we'll see the X-Files sort of concentrated on two different types of stories, the UFO mythology stories and then the supernatural monster of the week type stories, which was a real winning episode for audiences because it really was something for everyone.
Which came first? Flying Saucer? Is Flying Saucer a show, was it? Because I don't know. UFO was in the 70s. I know that much. Do you know the answer to that question?
I think if you're talking about the term, I think UFO came before flying saucer because UFOs were always unidentified flying objects, and then a newspaper coined the phrase flying saucer, I think during World War II. So UFOs were around before that, although they called them Foo Fighters as well.
Yeah, and you are right, William. Yeah, it was Kolchak the Night Stalker, which is a show in the 70s. Didn't deal with the aliens thing so much, but definitely supernatural related things. And it was just, and yeah, it's almost like a carbon copy, except to a larger degree. There's two protagonists instead of one, which was very, very groovy. And here they are.
Yeah, so what we were talking about was the mythology, where the X-Files took a lot of what had gone before and then refined it. And what they did was refine it, as Dag said, where a lot of the teams that had gone before were all looking at investigating or were a loner investigating. They set up a dynamic where you had a skeptic and a believer, and it was played very, very straight. So it was very, very believable. Now, everybody knows when I talk about Dana Scully and Fox Mulder and Cigarette Smoking Man and Skinner and all that, because they are characters that have now become part of popular culture and will always be remembered. But when it came out, it was actually quite a new and innovative, groundbreaking show.
So one of the things that I read about it is that they made a point of trying to make it as cinematic looking as possible, because a lot of TV shows at that point, some of them did look relatively cheap and nasty and whatever else. But with that, they really put a lot of time in the effort of the production design and the cinematography and the lighting and all the rest of it. And people said it was like, it was like watching a movie every week on TV. And because it was so believable the way that the characters were portrayed, you actually did think that this is completely legitimate. And that's what really made it work for people, plus the chemistry of the two actors. So, yeah.
Well, the template for the look of the X-Files was actually Silence of the Lambs. And in the X-Files, they'd often have this sort of teletext text coming up telling where they were and what was happening. And that was from Silence of the Lambs. And also Dana Scully's character was based on Clarice, to the point where Gillian Anderson got her hair dyed red because Chris Carter thought that was sort of make it, I guess, subliminally more related to Silence of the Lambs, so maybe more believable. But here we have Scully and Mulder, the two FBI agents, and their classic first meeting in Mulder's dungeon in the first episode. Now, the X-Files did more for sales of red string and corkboard walls than the JFK assassination. So it's one of those things where every conspiracy you can think of probably turned up in the X-Files at some point.
What I really liked, and I think made the show work, is that Fox Mulder obviously works for the FBI, and the whole X-Files thing was like laughed upon by the entire organization. So he was dumped down into the basement, practically forgotten. And I think a lot of people sort of dialed into that, saying, well, if I'm a science fiction fan, I'm usually the outcast, and he's the outcast of his own group. So I can relate to the fact that he's trying to go on these missions and solve these problems, but he's all by himself. And of course, when Scully comes into it, I think a lot of people dialed into her because she wasn't the femme fatale. She was equally just as strong and as confident and as forthright as he was. And because her opinions didn't match his opinions, there was always a constant clash there. And for that reason, it just produced this massively fantastic dynamic. And of course, it was done so seriously. It wasn't done for comedic effect that people just said, oh, this is grouse. So you're either a fan of one or both, but when they're together, they made a fantastic duo. Yeah.
Well, one of the things that works so well with the X-Files is that they do have amazing chemistry outside of the show, because a show can be fantastically written, but if the actors don't have chemistry, it's not going to work. And do you know who was originally, who the studio wanted to be Scully?
I have heard it, but I can't remember.
Pamela Anderson. She was
that
working.
wouldn't have worked at all. Yeah.
No, she was working on Home Improvements at the time, which was a big show on another network, and they wanted her to be lured off of that onto the X-Files because they wanted like a blonde bombshell to work with it. But Chris Carter put his foot down and said, no, that's not going to happen. That's not the show that we want.
See, what another reason why it worked is because at that point, Gillian Anderson and David Duchovny were unknowns. So
Yes.
when you see them, you're thinking, well, as far as I'm concerned, they're the real deal, rather than casting people who were completely already famous. And the Pamela Anderson would never have worked in a million years, right? That just would, no way. So I think people just sort of registered and said, no, they are who they say they are. And the supporting cast were effectively in the same boat as well. Good old Joel. Yeah, you have to do yourself a favor to watch the show if you've never seen it. It was a massive success in the 90s, as Aaron said. As we were discussing before we went on air, it's almost in terms of sci-fi, probably one of the bigger things in bigger than Star Trek even, to a large degree. For a period of time, for its first few years, it just blew everybody apart.
The amazing thing about the X-Files is, you and I have talked about this, most Star Trek series take to series 3 to hit their stride. The pilot episode of the X-Files was amazing, and it stayed at that level. There were better episodes and worse episodes, but it stayed at that level for a good number of years before it started to run out of steam.
Yeah, exactly right. All shows date spanking. So I mean, but if shoulder pads are all you're focusing on the wrong thing. I think personally the show's actually aged quite well. And you are right, Thomas, there, the chemistry, because I heard that David apparently is the skeptic in real life about UFOs, and Gillian's the exact opposite. So it's kind of bizarre, isn't it? So, but anyway, let us move on. Sorry, Gavin. It's actually true, though. I mean, anybody who was around at the time will know that X-Files was gigantic. It was the thing that everybody spoke about. So you got to remember, Star Trek had been around for like 20 years, 30 years prior to that, but X-Files was brand spanking new. It was the latest in hot thing. And I can tell you from a personal experience, when the X-Files fan club started in Victoria, they had over 1,000 members within like a month and a half. And it was like blew everybody to pieces. But we move on.
So this was some of the mythology they set up, and I think that's why the X-Files worked. It was one of those shows, if you were a drop-in viewer from week to week, you could watch it and it would be fine. There's a monster of the week, there's a good story. If you were a regular viewer, it rewards people who take in all the details and follow it week to week as well. So it worked on multiple levels. So here we've got Mulder and Scully, and beneath them, the lone gunmen, which were conspiracy theorists who aided them. Now, if you wanted to die on the X-Files, the best thing to do was be one of Mulder's informants. So if you were an informant, you've got Deep Throat at the top, gone at the end of the season. Then you've got Mr. X under that, gone by, I think, 2 seasons later. You've got Marita Comadius, I think. She wasn't gone. They just infected her with black oil, and she was like, that was it, cactus for her. You've got Superintendent Skinner, who I thought it was fantastic for a couple of years. Although you thought he was good, you didn't know for sure. And one of those amazing scenes is where he puts up a no smoking sign in his office, and you know which side he's on straight away, because underneath him is the architect of everything that was evil in the X-Files, the cigarette smoking man, who was a fantastic character, and he became such part of culture. Pop songs have him in. You've got watching the X-Files with the lights on, hope the smoking man's in this one kind of thing, lyrics in different songs. And then you've got Krychek as well, who went from being good to bad to good again, losing an arm, growing it back. And then underneath that is Chris Carter, the creator of the show, who did appear in the show like Alfred Hitchcock from time to time as one of the syndicate that was controlling everything, which I always thought was a clever idea, as he was the one who was the showrunner.
It's kind of funny you talk about the lone gunmen. If they existed today, and there's probably conspiracy theorists in America right now, they'd be just going completely psycho with the whole COVID thing and China and yada yada yada. And the cigarette and the cancer man, or the smoking man, he was always known as one or the other. He did actually have his own episode one time telling his backstory. And that was just and you actually felt sympathetic for the guy. Yeah. So
musings of the cigarette smoking man, where you thought he was going to be a novelist, and then he finds out it's being printed in Playboy, and he's that's the end. He's going back to being evil for life. So fantastic episode. Yeah,
very, very cool.
And then, as I was mentioning earlier, Monster of the Week, and boy, there was some good monsters on the X-Files. You had evil twins, liver-eating cocoon men who could stretch through chimneys, fluke host men from Chernobyl, the peacock inbred family. You've got chameleons and clones. You've got fortune tellers and demons. One of the cool demons, they had Bruce Campbell.
Can I cut you off? Cut you off. Say everybody good night, Luke.
Good night, Luke.
Yeah.
Bruce Campbell from Evil Dead played a demon, and they had a selection of fantastic cameos as monsters. Deep Roy as the beggar, and they could make things terrifying just by squeaky wheels of him coming up on his little cart. So if you're in it for monsters, you could watch the X-Files and be quite happy. And I think that's what kind of let it down at the end. Towards the end, they weren't doing the Monster of the Week episode. So all the monsters are in the first couple of series, all the ones that are sort of recognized as the best ones. My favorite episode is probably Ice with the worm parasites, which was a homage to The Thing set on the snow base. But we're talking about the X-Files, but this is a toy show, so we're going to start looking at some of the mountains of merchandise. Of course, this is the last couple of seasons of the original X-Files, where Scully and Mulder took a back seat, and you had Reyes and Doggett, who were the sort of new team that they were obviously trying to extend the show with. A lot of people hated this. I didn't. I actually thought it was a breath of fresh air. I thought they were good actors and did a good job. I thought it was more the show itself kind of let them down by getting a bit stale.
I like this comment, good old Rico. His true story's most vivid nightmare was having an episode where the guy's eating cereal and it turns into maggots. Maybe that's just the cereal. That's how they promoted it. It's gluten-free and all the rest of it. And that's the reason why. So love it. And I agree with you, Adzi. Yeah, big ass torches. They had the big mag lights. And I tell you what, they'd knock you bad if they ever needed to. But I agree. The problem that X-Files had, unfortunately, despite how fantastic the show was, it went too long. Once they lost a couple of the main characters, and as I said, was it Doggett? Doggett came in, and the other lady. By then, most people had abandoned it.
I think as well, it maybe got too popular, where they maybe had a good story for about 3 or 4 years, and it worked out, and then it was so popular they couldn't end it. So you had Mulder's sister about 5 different explanations for why she was abducted by UFOs, taken by her father, turned into a clone, killed by a serial killer, and you're just like, hang on, we've had this all before. So it got a bit lazy in the writing. But we're not here to do a review show on the X-Files. We're here to look at the merchandise. But it is nice to talk about that stuff. So indeed. I want to collect. Everyone
and he's
knows,
obviously buying from Greg King's Cheaper Things.
Yes. Everyone knows that classic poster. And it was actually one of the first items of merchandise from the X-Files that was available, because it was a real existing poster that they must have got at some UFO convention or something like that. So imagine how lucky the person who owned that imagery would have been when it was on the wall of Mulder's office in the X-Files.
See, Greg's happy it's at $2. The problem is, Adzi, you made a good point. You hated the cast. The new cast, rewatching it holds up. But the thing, at the time, no one liked it because David and Gillian had such a massive impact. Now, retrospectively, is all well and good, but once the show's finished, it's gone, and only a handful of people, and obviously you're one of them, will go back and check it out again and go, you know what, it wasn't that bad after all. But by then, the damage is done. We are talking over 20 years ago now, so they're very cool. But yes, this particular one that says I want to collect, that's copyright to Aaron and myself. So if you print that off and sell millions of copies, we'd like more than $2 back. So yeah, what do you reckon?
So when the X-Files became the success it was a shock to everyone. A lot of merchandise that comes out for shows like Star Trek or things like that, they already have an idea that, it's got a life and it's got a shelf life and they're going to merchandise it. I don't think anyone had an idea that the X-Files was going to be such a huge cultural hit. And this shows sort of just the cluster, like the broad range of merchandise that almost came out straight away, because there's not anything there that takes any time to sort of put together, but it is all that sort of stuff that already exists and you can brand it as the X-Files. So there was mouse mats and T-shirts and there's book plates there, which I didn't know exist. And one of those places in the 90s and 2000s that's kind of gone, Superstars and Legends, where you could go and buy fake autographs at overpriced prices with fake certificates that weren't worth the ink they were printed on the back. But you could get very, very fast X-Files signed displays from there, I remember seeing. And of course, there were Star Wars ones of these. I'm sure you'll remember them, Dags. In the top right corner there's the Chrome Art posters. And the Chrome Arts X-Files poster was one of the first ones out. Now, by about series 2, they realized they had a huge hit on their hand by the amount of T-shirts and posters and all that stuff they were selling. So a soundtrack came out, Songs in the Key of X, which did amazingly well. Everyone was shocked how well it did. The videos started coming out and selling really, really well. One of the interesting things there, someone put out a map, which is just a map of America, a fold-out map, and then it's got the X-File locations. So as if the X-Files were real, where you could go on a road trip to see the locations that obviously weren't filmed there if you're an X-File fan. And then fanzines started up pretty fast. As Dag said, the X-Files got a huge fan following straight away. And because there wasn't a lot of merchandise around, fan clubs and fanzines capitalized on this. Do you want to tell the story about the numbering system for the Australian one?
I will. I just got to comment on one thing. So Jared said you can still buy X-Files t-shirts at Kmart right now. And I can tell you, guaranteed fact, there's actually an X-Files jacket sitting in Aaron's store ready for someone to buy it. So with the X-Files fan club, just very, very quickly, the person who created the club loved the idea of X. And they said, okay, Beauty, we'll make all the numbering system for the memberships in Roman numerals. So she could be member number 10, which is X. And that's all well and great. If you only have like 50, 20, 60 members, Beauty, it's X, Y, 111. But when you end up with 1,000 and 2,000 or whatever it was, they had to sit there and scratch their heads and go, how do you write 1,457 in Roman numerals and X, 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 Y, X, X? They just drove them around the twist big time, all because the founder wanted the number 10. How good is that?
There you go.
They bought 1,000 membership cards thinking this will last us 50 years, and they ran out within a month and a half. So
I do remember when that happened, and fandom was very jealous. I remember, Star Trek fans and Doctor Who fans that have been around forever, and suddenly this show that's been on TV for 6 months has 10 times as many fans coming to fan clubs and interested. It was quite an interesting phenomenon to watch from a fan point of view.
Yeah, and the fact they didn't actually call their members, they actually called them special agents. It became a bit of a thing, but there you go. Speaking of T-shirts.
So yeah, T-shirts were one of the first things out. Now, it is actually really hard to find classic T-shirts because people wear them and they're not one of those things they keep, unless you're Jeff Tilley or me and you have like a file of old T-shirts that you used to have. So the ones I have put on either side there, as someone pointed out, were ones that are available now. So X-Files T-shirts, you can still get them. The one in the middle, though, was the original X-Files logo, and that was on an eBay auction. Now, it's a bit small to see. All the ones in those auctions are original 90s T-shirts, and they're all going between about $200 and $300 each for those. And that's probably because T-shirts are so disposable. Finding them in good condition is quite hard. Now, the one on the far right there, the sort of colourful one in the square with the X, next to that one, Dags, that one, I remember really, really wanting that one when it came out and not being able to get one in my size, going through all the racks at, I think it's What's New, and then not being able to find one in my size and spewing over that. But I had a couple of X-Files T-shirts growing up, and they were pretty cool. And they were... X-Files was one of those first shows where you could be a geek and you could wear it, and normal people would think it was pretty cool as well. It was kind of like the other one was Batman, where Batman was so big that it broke over into sort of everyone liked it, not just the general Comic Con crowd.
It's a good point. I think X-Files may have been at the start where when you used to have science fiction fans over here and normal people over there, that there was actually a bit of a mesh between the two, because normal people would never watch sci-fi and a pink fit spaceships and rocket ships and laser blasters and all that sort of crap, would see the X-Files and you know what, there's enough of contemporary drama to make it appealing whilst having the sci-fi element sort of shoved in on the side. And maybe that was at the beginning of the convergence between one side and the other side, because it appealed to everybody. And as a result, yeah, you're right. People weren't embarrassed to say, yes, I actually watch X-Files and I'm really into it. So
one of the craziest things I ever saw as a fan, because I've always been to fan club meetings and all different things growing up, was Gillian Anderson did a shopping town tour of Australia. And I was living I was living in Sydney at the time, and she went to where was it up there? I think it was Blacktown, Westfield. And I was like, I know how this works. I'm going at 6 a.m. and I will be the first person in line because, I know how fandom works. I got there at 6 a.m. and I wasn't the 1,000th person in line. I could not believe how popular it actually was. You can go online and find pictures of it. They were worried. They were going to do it in a Collins bookshop, and they had to move it to the centre stage at Westfield because so many people turned up. It was going to be dangerous. And they were worried that the centre might collapse because it was 5 stories and every single one of them was packed with people hanging over looking at her. And she was nervous and looked really scared about what was happening. I actually thought they totally misunderstood how many people were going to turn up. I did, thinking I knew what it was going to be. It was crazy. People got crushed because Gillian Anderson was doing a signing.
It's funny, historically, whenever celebrities appear at shopping centres, that's never really ended all that well. And there's a long list of, whether it's young talent time or the team or whoever else. It's just they never planned for all those people. But you're right. Nobody, I mean, your mundanes of the world would have thought, it's only a TV show. Who's going to give a shit? And of course, it was such a gigantic hit that they would never have guessed it.
I have done Peter Davison, who's Doctor Who at Chadston, and different things for my son, like the Wiggles or Jimmy Giggle, if anyone knows that. And that was big. Gillian Anderson was bigger than I can imagine the biggest rock concert. She was the biggest thing I've ever seen. That was absolutely incredible. So it's one of those things that people forget. Sorry, it's just one of those things people forget.
And of course, timing is wonderful. It had it been 10 years later, it would have only gotten like half of those people. And Adzi said, he was there and it was scary, which is understandable. Now, there's a question here from Gavin. Was a class of sci-fi, science, fantasy, it's sort of crossed a lot of genres, right? So it wasn't always science fiction. It didn't always deal with spaceships and aliens and whatever else, but that was the core arc of the story. So yes. I would class it as a science drama or maybe, but...
And I think that's why it worked, because it wasn't pigeonholed into one thing. If every episode had been about the UFO conspiracy, there was another show called Dark Skies, and it didn't last because, it didn't have the variety. But because the X-Files, you'd have a demon one week and you'd have God the next week, and then you'd have a comedy black and white episode, and then you'd have the mythology episodes and like twists and revelations. That's why it worked. But it wasn't just science fiction, it was fantasy. It was even it worked for some of the people I knew who didn't like science fiction because it was a good detective drama as well, where they were solving cases. I've got to say the X-Files often had more realistic autopsies than some of the cop shows that were on at the time, which Gillian Anderson learned how to do and did them all herself. And they're pretty realistic when you watch them.
It would probably also help that they treated the audience with respect as well and didn't just treat us like we're complete morons. But we move on now. I'm going to tell you now, it's 9:30. We're going to make this a 2-part show. We're not going to get through everything in the next half hour, so we're just going to casually cruise our way through. So I want to believe that we're going to make it within half an hour, but that is not going to happen at all because we've only just up to the posters.
Posters were the other things that were sort of the first thing out, and of course you can whack posters out straight away. And these were 3 of the original posters. I had the one in the middle. I actually remember going into Minotaur and seeing those posters and a couple of other ones I probably have missed. There was a big one I couldn't find of them standing in front of a filing cabinet, which was a nice poster as well. But I had the one in the middle. That was the first piece of X-File merchandise that I bought from Minotaur Books about, 3 or 4 months after the show came out.
Yeah, it's very funny you're talking about merchandise because it was such a big hit. It was actually at a convention, and one of the things that people were into at the time was autographed pictures. And of course, if you had an autographed picture of David, woohoo! You had an autographed picture of Gillian, woohoo! But if you had a single autographed picture of both of them and they'd both signed it, mate, bids were jumping in the $50, 100, 200, whatever. And it was like I'm in the audience of this convention in the 90s, and they're going, bloody hell, because it was like they both signed this thing, and that was considered like absolute gold. And I don't know if it still holds its value today. Probably it wouldn't. But at the time, that's how the mindset was, that when things came out, and I agree with you, people just jumped on it because it was like, oh, this is the greatest thing in the universe as far as they're concerned. And maybe for some people, it was actually the start of anything they dealt with regarding pop culture and or collecting as well. So it certainly sent them down, a lot of people, I think, down a path that they would never have guessed in a normal any other time.
For sure.
So, yeah.
It expanded the nerd gene pool, that's for sure.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it, actually, yeah.
X-Files was also one of those interesting shows that jumped to the big screen. And what was probably unique about the X-Files, it actually did it well, where the series ended on a big cliffhanger. It was resolved in a movie, and the movie did look bigger and more expensive and like something they couldn't do on the small screen, and then it went back to the small screen without it being disappointing. So this was for the first X-File movie that I think is a good movie and is still a pretty solid watch if you watch it today. And that's the poster campaign for Fight the Future, the X-Files movie.
One of the things that, like the movie has, is the TV series. If it ever broadcasts on free-to-air TV today, they filmed it in widescreen, so because they actually used film, and they just copied it for a normal TV. So if you ever do watch it on a modern-day television, it looks great because it actually fills the frame out, and they haven't had to punch into it to make it fit. So they obviously thought ahead at the time. So even on a modern-day TV, I don't know about the DVD releases, how they all turned out, which I know we're going to discuss later. But if the show does air, it actually looks quite groovy. But when the movie came out, it was a bit of a big deal. Sorry, when the movie came out, it was a bit of a big deal because it reunited David and Gillian again. Yeah.
The show is actually, I think, free download in HD on SBS at the moment if you want to watch the first 9 series. I think the other series aren't.
I love the post on the left. I reckon that's very, very clever.
Yes. This was from the second movie. Now, I don't know. You would have seen the second movie. It wasn't a good movie. They said with the second movie they were going to dump the mythology and do a Monster of the Week movie, which in theory sounds really good if you did a good Monster of the Week. But Billy Connolly as a pedophile priest was not what I wanted to go see for the sort of last X-Files movie that was going to come out. But still, at least they gave it a go, and it did make it back to the box office. It wasn't something I thought was going to happen because there was lots of rumours that Gillian and David didn't get on, but they said they wanted to come and do it, and they did it, and they made it, and it didn't do anything in the box office at all. It was kind of the wrong timing for that movie, I think.
Well, as you can see from the date down the bottom, it says 2008. So this is like well over 10 years, 15 years after the series, after they left the series. So by then, it was all a bit passé, a bit forgotten. The world had sort of moved on. So maybe it wasn't the greatest thing that they could have done, but anyway, history is a fantastic judge sometimes. So there you go. Yeah, very cool. These I love. These are great.
And these are modern posters, and these are fantastic. What I really love is the homage to the old science fiction movie posters from the 50s. So these are ones that some were created for the event series that was on a couple of years ago, and some of them are just on Etsy that have been designed by fans. But I think all of these posters are absolutely fantastic. So you can still get your X-File merchandise, and it's still nice, classy stuff.
Yeah, that one on the extreme right is an absolute knockout, I've got to say. And Joe said no bizarre Polish or Hungarian ones.
No, there weren't this time round.
What it does show is that even a modern thing designed with a retrospective sort of look and feel to it can still come out awesome. And people can go, you know what, that is actually cooler or more appealing to me than something that was like the one that we saw beforehand, right? I'm going to click on there. So you compare, say, the one on the left or any of those to some of those, and you go, you know what, some of the older style ones are actually the way to go. So yeah, very cool.
If they released all the series on Blu-ray with those posters, I'd probably end up buying them again to get the nicer packaging. It's that kind of artwork, isn't it, that people who collect like. Yeah,
and actually, as the next shot will show, for the most part, the show was always about the two leads. They very rarely saw them independently. So as we can see here, or individually.
Yes. So the other big thing that was a success beyond what anyone thought was the X-File comic. Now, the X-File comic sold out instantly worldwide, and it was because they did not understand when they were doing the numbers for it. They thought they were going to get the regular genre fans, but the X-File comic actually got businessmen and people who wouldn't normally go into comic shops going and looking for it. So the demand for issue 1 was about 5 times what they expected it to be. They had to reprint it a couple of times, and then they had to put it issues 1, 2, and 3 in a combined issue and reprint it again. And it was one of those phenomenons when no one could believe, everyone heard, oh, the X-Files comic's out next week, I'll go and grab one. And you go there and they go, it's sold out in the first 5 minutes. That didn't happen with comics at the time. Even the death of Superman, which was around the same time, I remember going in, and you could have gone in any time and got it. It didn't sell out. They had millions of them in there. But this was a huge success beyond what Topps could ever have expected.
That's an example of people desperate to get more and more material for it. Gavin has said, is there a single favorite episode voted by the fans? I don't know, because there's a lot of good stuff. I don't think you
The-
could probably have arcs rather than episodes, but what do you reckon? I mean, I don't remember the names of them, so I can't remember.
like I said, I have favourites. They're usually the monsters of the week ones, just because the arcs are kind of let down after a while by them not going anywhere. What they did, which was genius in Australia, they ended, I think, series 2 on a cliffhanger. And then they released the first episodes of series 3 on video before they were shown on TV. So I remember they came out like on a Thursday, and after work going down to Kmart, and everyone was going down to Kmart. It was the paperclip episode, I think. And, actually seeing people all going down to the video section and buying the same video and then cracking open more crates of them and putting them out. I mean, that is amazing for a big movie, let alone a TV series.
Yeah, I mean, some of the titles of the episodes were quite hard to sort of fathom sometimes, but I mean, every time the sign "The Truth Is Out There" came up at the start of the episode, I used to think, is that the name of the episode? Why are they all called the same name? So it took me ages to work out why you do that.
They had really interesting titles for the time, because now, like, I guess more people have used that sort of one-word title template that they used for a lot of the episodes. But at the time, the titles were sort of cutting edge and mysterious and one word related to the episode. I love the Arctic episode. I love the one called Darkness Falls, which is the little insects that come out at night and cocoon you up kind of thing. But I went through every season, I could pick favorite episodes right up till the end. And there's a lot of guest stars on the X-Files that people forget. Like I said, there was Bruce Campbell. You had the guy from Breaking Bad was in an episode. A lot of genre stars were in episodes. But again, we're going to blow out time-wise. Maybe we can talk about everything just because we're going to turn it into 2 episodes. So the mythology of the X-Files was fantastic and drew a lot of people in.
Oh.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just reading a comment and you were talking. And I thought, beauty, I can just like read it. Hang on, what were you saying? What happened?
I was just saying the mythology for the X-Files drew a lot of people in as well.
Yeah. So, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So I think one of the key things that sort of like was a really good hook, aside from the Monster of the Week scenario, as you mentioned, was the fact of the whole alien things. Are aliens existing in society? Does the government have them and all the rest of it? And of course, Prof. Mulder's the only one who says, yes, they are there. It just got to prove it. And, he's doing the whole thing with Deep Throat. And, it's this constant, like putting the X on your window with the sticky tape and all this sort of business. And to be fair, they did sort of drag it out. But when those episodes appeared, you dialed right into it. So, oh my God, you remember we got the videotape of some cheap like alien autopsy that he bought for $5 on the internet. And as it turned out, it may have actually been the real thing. So it's stuff like that was absolutely fantastic. It just like it completely drew you in, which was really.
There was
cool.
an episode. What I loved about the X-Files, it actually would pay off. Where a lot of shows where they do, does it exist? Does it not exist? They'd show something and never give any proof. But at the end of season 1, they did an episode called EBE, where he actually found an alien, fetus and stuff like that. And, there was an alien and it was all there and it was all real. And they all came and they covered it up and took it away from him. And you're like, wow, this show has answers for what it's setting up. So it was more rewarding than a lot of the shows where it all turns out to be, nothing at the end of it. They had no Scooby-Doo episodes. No, they had exactly. They had one Scooby-Doo episode where the monster was a fake. That was the Quagmire one, where there was a guy walking around pretending he was like a Loch Ness monster, but there was actually a giant crocodile eating people at the same time. So they had one where that kind of did the bait and switch.
Yeah, exactly right. I just remember when Deep Throat got shot. It was like, shit, nobody saw that one coming. That was just like friggin' hell. And Jared has said apparently best episode is Clyde Brockman's Final Repose, season 3, episode 4. I mean, I haven't watched the show for a long time, so you could be right. But anyway...
He could see the future kind of thing. Anyway, The first X-Files comic was available in Star Wars Galaxies, and it was the Ashcan edition, so the black and white edition of X-Files issue 1. And so I actually had it, but I couldn't get issue 1. Turns out that the Ashcan edition is worth more now anyway. But so that was the run of the Topps X-File comics. I think they went for 41 issues, which... is quite good for a TV show like the X-Files. They were amazing because the artwork on the cover was really different from what was available at the time. It was very indie looking artwork, and the stories were smart and intelligent, and they tied into what was going on in the show. And they did do a second run of comics that were adaptations of the episodes as well, but they didn't sell as well, so they phased them out pretty quick.
Yeah, I like how in most of the pictures it's always David standing behind Gillian, but as I said earlier, there's always the two of them together, and they just were a perfect mix for the show. Worked really, really well.
Always two there is.
Having said that, there's a shot of Scully by herself, but anyway, move on.
And so X-Files comics went away, but they never truly went away. They released a lot of comics recently, and you can still get them today. And they'd often do X-Files tie-ins with different franchises, and some of them worked really well, and some of them didn't work as well. There's a group of comics on the top right there that are the 30 Days of Night. So they're the vampire franchise, and then Scully and Mulder go and investigate that. And then there's other ones with the Lone Gunman where they look into crossovers with Ghostbusters and Transformers and things like that. And you've got parodies of other styles as well, which is what you can do when you're a popular franchise. So you've got one that looks like issue 1 of Batman, and then you've got one that looks like a Scooby-Doo kind of thing, and then you've got the adaptations of the movies and the stylized look of it. If you just collected X-Files comics, you could probably do it, and it'd be a really nice collection.
So David said it was actually Tombs. Yeah, they were pretty freaky. The dude who could stretch himself down like chimneys and all that sort of business.
Victor Eugene Tombs.
Yeah, Eugene Toombs. And in real life, the actor actually did all that stuff nude, which was kind of freaky. So there you go. Now, just to clarify something, this is a little bit risque. So Thomas has made a bit of a laugh about the fact that Deep Throat got mentioned, right? Now, for those who don't know, obviously Deep Throat was the name of the pornographic movie that was made in the 1970s, but the term Deep Throat was actually referred to with the Watergate scandal. So now it's an unusual, it's not a very flattering term because it has a lot of connotations associated with it. And I thought it was unfortunate that in the X-Files, they use the character's name. They called him Deep Throat. And I thought they could have thought of something else because by then the porno movie had been out, was extremely famous, and it was like they needed another name for him. So if there's a downside to the X-Files, aside from the fact that it went too long, that would be my
It is a well-known piece of trivia that Chris Carter and David Duchovny liked their pornography, and that is one of the reasons why that came up sometimes. And apparently in the X-Files cabinet, there was porn videos.
Yeah. I mean, there's a known fact that Mulder watches pornography when he's at home on his own because he lives by himself. But yeah, it didn't work. And I remember like Scully once said, "Oh yeah, the Deep Throat character," and I think, yeah, it's just not going to work. It's unfortunate. They needed to think of another name for him. But if there was going to be as I said, a downside, and yeah, it's okay, Thomas. Someone had to bring it up, but. Yes, but yeah, it comes back from the Watergate scandal. So back then it was all nice and innocent. Sorry, go on.
They changed it from his original name, which was Mr. Goodbar.
Good on you. Let's move on, shall we?
And the X-Files books were another thing that were very early in the merchandising of the X-Files. So there was a young adult series of books that were based on the TV stories, and then they released original literature, which I remember everyone hanging out for. And the first couple of books were actually really, really good. I remember getting them and reading them, and they were in the bestseller list, top seller list. And when I read them, I can always tell a good book if I can hear the characters when I'm reading it in my head. And they really did capture the characters and the stories very well.
Got a comment. First comment for the night from Natasha, who's the mother of the little dude, and I don't mean spanking. The last season they made a mention of the Kelly Cahill UFO incident took place here in Victoria, not far from the Fountain Gate Shopping Centre. How good is that? So very, very cool. Well done, Tash. Good to see a good old Tash joining the show. Absolutely awesome. So yes, very, very cool. So yeah, between the TV show, the comics, and the books, there was plenty there for X-Files. They were actually fans call themselves X-Files. So that's Philes. So if you said I'm an X-File, it doesn't mean you're an alien or you're a Mr. Toombs or whatever. You're actually a fan. So it was a sort of a play on the spelling, so which was kind of groovy. So,
and the X-Files books were kind of split into two categories. There were the fiction ones, but what got pumped out first was they took these real mystery books, on UFOs and ghosts and the supernatural, and then they whacked it into the X-Files Book of the Unexplained, endorsed by Chris Carter. So they have an instant book that kind of already existed in a different form, and they rebranded it as the X-Files. So they were some of the things I remember getting and reading because I was into that kind of thing, but thinking there's very little relation to the X-Files here.
I love this one from Thomas. Yeah, lucky that Luke went to bed early. It's an education, man. Yeah, if you're going to learn everything, learn from the X-Files, learn from media and science fictions. That's how it worked for Webster earlier on. So absolutely.
He's gone to bed, but he's listening to the How to Not Get Molested record by Webster to put himself to sleep.
Yeah. Exactly right. I remember that in Nary on the way to Bel. You remember that? Okay. This is a comment from Mick. We haven't seen Mick all night. I remember that in Nary one on the way back to Belgrave. Now, what has happened is that we've got just a little over 5 minutes to go. I'm not going to move on to the next section because it'll just drag us out over. I don't have to rush it through it either. So we're going to just plow this one out until 10 o'clock comes around. Yep. So went to bed early Monday. Predicted bad diary. Yeah. So there you go. But so the thing is, and I find it funny because, like, you're right. 30 years after the fact, was it? No, 20-something years after the fact, there are people, I think was been mentioned on this show, who've never seen the show before. And you would have thought that everybody was watching it at the time because it was such a big deal. Yes. And it's once it was gone, it was effectively just forgotten. But they did try and do, some additional episodes about 5 or 6 years ago. There was about
they did two event series. They did one in about 2016 and another one in 2018, and they were 6 episodes and 6 episodes. But they'd kind of lost it by then. There were a couple of good episodes, but the majority of them I didn't think really needed to be made.
Yeah, there was one that I remember that they actually had an alien sort of running around, and they made a point of saying, "Hey, look, there's an alien right there." And I thought, hang on, that actually conflicts with all the canon that you've established in the rest of the series. And I thought, sure, it was done as a joke, and it was as a joke, it was actually quite amusing, and he sort of laughed and go, "That's really, really quite funny." But you're thinking, hang on, the series isn't designed like doing musical episodes or anything like that. It's actually all meant to be one long storyline. So I did think it's like, oh, okay, if you're a bit pedantic about how timelines work and continuity and all the rest of it, you've kind of just like kicked yourself in the guts. So what did you think about that? Remember that?
Yeah, I also think towards the end of the show, when it originally wound up, they were doing episodes. They kind of did comedy episodes, and it kind of did undermine what they had done with the mythology. There was one episode towards the end, and it is an interesting one to watch, and it's enjoyable, called Sunshine Day, where the kid makes his house the Brady Bunch house, and he's like levitating Skinner and stuff like that, and Skinner's going, well, I finally believe now because I'm getting levitated in front of kind of thing. But you're kind of like, well, that kind of wrecks the whole dynamic they've set up through the last 9 years kind of thing, just for a joke.
Yeah, exactly right. So, Christy, we're actually going to discuss the Lone Gunman spin-off show, which will now be next week because we've run out of time this week. But those 3 guys, they were grouse, and they had a lot of really good episodes. I can't forget the names, but I know the blonde guy lives in Australia, lives in Melbourne, actually.
And he rents his own table out and does conventions, and he'll talk to you for hours about the X-Files if you want.
Yeah, exactly right. And I do like the idea that all 3 of them had completely different personalities, and that's what made it work so well.
And the other show we'll be looking at next week is Millennium, which is another fantastic show with Lance Hendrickson that spun off from the X-Files. And it's kind of one of those forgotten shows, but it was a really, really good show. I mean, at the time, it was before 2000, and everyone was worried about Y2K and what was going to happen with the Millennium. Turns out nothing.
Yeah, exactly right, which is absolutely amazing. So, which is very, very cool. But yes, we shall be covering those things, plus some more toys. Funny how we got around to the toys yet. Now, this is a collectible show about toys, and we haven't even got to the freaking toys. I mean, like, the toys around there, my God. Talk about, actually, leaving you hanging on a thread. What can I say? Hey, absolutely fantastic. So, there you go.
McFarlane, Sideshow, statues, all the good stuff's coming.
Absolutely fantastic. So, there you go. And Joe was a bit of a fan of good old Millennium, which was cool. I didn't know Millennium was a spin-off, of X-Files. So, there you go. You learn something new every day.
Yeah,
which was very, very cool. All right, so it's almost 10 o'clock. We are actually going to wrap up the show so we don't just dribble on as we are currently. So there you go. Any final words? Because we will be back next week yapping on about more X-Files stuff. Any final words before we sign off there, Mr. Aaron?
Not really. Thanks for being along with our rambling on the X-Files. And sorry the show blew out. I guess we had too much cool stuff to put at the start, and it just pushed everything back. But it just means we get to spread the X-Files love over 2 weeks.
Exactly right. The collectibles are out there. That's the most important thing. So just like those alien autopsies, make sure you keep all your collectibles mint in box.
Or rip them off the card.
Bye for now.
Have a good night.